My name's Graham Turner, and I'd like to share with you a strange tale told to me by my late dad, Bill. He'd been staying at St Martin's Hospice with stage 4 lung cancer. I'd just finished my night shift when I received a call from the hospice one warm June morning. Graham speaking. Oh, hello. What's wrong? Right. Okay, tell him I'll be 20 minutes. Okay, thanks, bye. Dad was sitting on a bench under an oak tree in the hospice gardens. He looked pale and tired. Hey, Dad, how you feeling? Oh, not so good, son. Been having trouble sleeping. Bad dreams. Here, take a seat. So, Dad, what's on your mind? I've heard say that confession is good for the soul. Graham, do you believe in God? Well, I'm not sure, Dad. Why'd you ask? Your mum believed. She was a good woman, your mum. When she was dying, she said that when it was my turn, she'd come for me. Thing is, Graham, if there is a God, then I don't think I'll ever see her again. Dad, what's wrong? Son, to tell you this, I have to break an oath I kept for over 70 years. An oath? I never told you this before, but before I joined the Navy, when war broke out, I was on a merchant ship for 3 years. My dad was a bit too fond of using his fists on me, so in 1936, when I was 15, I packed a bag and left home. Why didn't you tell me? You'll see. Anyway, I wanted to join the circus, but they wouldn't have me, so I thought I'd run away to sea. Funny, I couldn't even swim. I fancied seeing the world, have adventures, meet exotic young ladies. Anyway, I got myself to Portsmouth and signed aboard this tramp steamer, the Annabel Cavendish. God, she was a rust bucket. She had a dozen crew, stokers, a cook, deckhands, first mate. They were tough blokes, salt of the earth types. The skipper was a Glaswegian, a really decent bloke named George McLennan. The crew loved him. He had this saying, rules are for the obedience of fools and the guidance of wise men. He took me under his wing, showed me the ropes. He was like the father I always wanted. Anyway, my first voyage, we were taking bales of wool to Naples. I don't mind telling you, when we first lost sight of land, I got the willies, and I was seasick. I always got seasick, but I've never felt so free. We went all over, Singapore, Rio, Cape Town, Mumbai. It was hard, dirty work, but I loved it. I pulled my weight, showed respect to the other crew, and they took a shine to me. They all called me Billy Boy. I felt I belonged. Anyway, about a year later, we were taking this timber from Murmansk to New York. Oh, it was so bleeding cold. Dad, are you okay? Do you want a nurse? Oh, I'm fine, Graham. Just a bit of fluid on the old lungs. Anyway, where was I? You were on your way to New York. So I was. We were only 2 days out of Murmansk when the skipper got a ruptured appendix. We docked at Bergen in Norway and got him to an hospital just in time. He was going to be there for a while, and we got word from the ship's owners to sit tight. A new skipper would join us in a few days. Well, when we all laid eyes on Captain Smythe, we smelt trouble. He was in his early 30s. His uniform was all neat and pressed. Starched shirt, polished buttons, shiny shoes. We found out later his family owned half of Shropshire and had pulled a few strings to get him the job. We were his first command. He talked to us like we was peasants. He gave us this speech about how he's going to run things. By the book. Any breaking of the rules, he'd fine us or get us the sack. Well, the old mood aboard changed. No one laughed anymore, and Smythe treated me like his slave. I did his laundry, polished his shoes, cleaned his cabin, brought him all his meals. Then he'd strut round the deck to find something wrong, then write a report, give out a fine, threaten the sack. In no time at all, we all hated him. And as we passed Iceland, I went into the mess, and the crew were all gathered round talking in whispers. The first mate told me to go back up on deck. I knew something was up. And one night, just off Nova Scotia, we hit this storm. God, I've never seen seas like it. I was so seasick, I thought I was going to die. Smythe called me to his cabin to shine his shoes. I said I wasn't feeling well, and he shouted at me to do as I was told. So, I managed to polish them, and he slipped them on. And that's when I was sick all over him. All over his jacket, his shiny buttons, his trousers, his shoes. He stood there covered in my sick, this look of horror on his face. I don't know why, but I started giggling. Smythe was so mad he punched me to the ground and started kicking me, calling me names I can't repeat, just like my dad had done. Then he stamped on my left arm and broke it. God, I screamed with the pain. That's when the first mate and a few others burst into the cabin and got Smythe by the arms. They dragged him off me and frog-marched him up to the deck. He was cursing them, saying the company would hear of this, would all be sacked. The first mate helped me up, and we followed them on deck where Smythe was shouting blue murder. And that's when I saw it. The crew had ripped a long metal closet from one of the bulkheads, and it lay on the deck, its door open. The first mate looked at me and he said, "Billy boy, if we're to do this, then we all do this." I suddenly realised what was about to happen, and so did Smythe. He started begging me for forgiveness, screaming he was sorry over and over. I looked at my crewmates, these men I'd come to love as brothers, and they were all looking at me for my say-so. I shouted, "Do it! Do it!" And they did. Smythe was screaming for his mum as they stuffed him inside. They slammed the door and padlocked it. He was kicking and screaming to get out. Then they dragged the closet to the rails, and they chucked it over the side. We all stood on that deck and swore an oath. The first mate got my arm in a splint, and when the storm passed, we radioed the company to say that Smythe had been swept overboard. When we got to New York, there was an inquiry. We were all interviewed. They had nothing but our word, and Smythe was listed as lost at sea. We sailed back to Liverpool, and there was our old skipper stood on the dock to meet us. I think he had an inkling of what had happened, but he never asked, and we never told. And none of us mentioned the name Smythe ever again. Then war broke out, and I transferred to the Royal Navy. The Annabel Cavendish took part in the Arctic convoys, and in 1944, she was sunk by a German U-boat with the loss of all hands. Oh, I cried like a baby when I heard. So, Sergeant Graham Turner of Norfolk Police, you took an oath too. Your old man helped murder someone. What do you think of me now? I think that you went on to serve your country bravely. You were a devoted husband to Mum, and I couldn't wish for a better father. That's what I think of you, Dad. 2 weeks later, Dad passed away in the small hours of the morning. I was at his bedside. He'd been slipping in and out of consciousness. Then suddenly, he opened his eyes wide and sat bolt upright. He looked at the end of the bed, and his face lit up. He whispered, "Oh, Rosie, you've come for me. You look so beautiful." And then he died. Sometimes I think about that skeleton in the closet, lying at the bottom of the ocean. I know what I would have said if it were me standing on that deck, with my brothers looking for my say-so. I know exactly what I would have said.